So here we go. Joel was so wound up that another occurrence of the strange warbling sound barely fazed him. He wandered around aimlessly for a while, losing track of time while thinking about all the things that he would buy for himself and his family. He didn't feel like going back home at that moment, but he had no alternative destination in mind. The world felt like one big blur. He was so distracted by his own thoughts that he didn't notice the tall stranger wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt and a long black trench coat who sidled up next to him. Joel, the stranger whispered in a low, husky voice from within the confines of the hood. Joel didn't hear the stranger. He continued to walk with his eyes fixed forward. Joel, the stranger whispered again, a little louder. Joel heard him this time. What? He said as he jumped and looked around, startled out of his daze. Oh, you scared me. Wait, who are you? I'm Marshall Bile, the stranger said in a familiar British accent as he turned to look Joel in the eye. Joel quickly looked away. What? But you can't be. For a second, Joel debated whether to turn and run or stand and yell at whoever this was for playing a lame joke on him. But then he turned his head back around and got a good look at the stranger's face. Although it appeared a bit older in person, Joel instantly recognized that the face's features and details, light green eyes, hooked nose, long sideburns, uneven jawline, the scar on the cheek from an onstage accident, were exactly the same as the ones that he had been seeing on posters, album covers, and website photos all these years. Joel's jaw dropped. Oh my gosh, Marshall hissed, his eyes darting around. Don't blow my cover, mate. I'm supposed to be dead. Just keep walking. You're what? Your cover? What are you doing here? How do you know who I am? Joel, listen to me. We don't have much time. I can make your dreams come true. Your dreams of becoming a rock star. You just have to come with me. Go with you where? And how do you know what I want to become? It'll be for a little while. You want to be a rock star, right? Joel's mind was reeling. Marshall Bile, his all-time favorite musician, was here, talking to him, offering to make him a star. Was this really happening? Well, yeah, of course, but Marshall stopped walking and grabbed Joel by the shoulders. Joel, trust me, he said. I know this all sounds very strange right now, but I assure you, you won't regret it. Regret what? Where are we going? Marshall's expression tightened. We only have a few more minutes if you really want to do this. Are you in or not? Marshall sighed and raised his hands. All right, if you don't want to be a rock star, then fine with me. He turned around and started to walk away. Joel stared at the back of his idol, a man who had somehow risen from the dead to appear next to him. He pushed aside the jumble of confused emotions filling his mind. As crazy as all of this seemed, he couldn't pass up what sounded like the opportunity he had been so fervently wishing for. Sometimes you just gotta say, okay, what the heck? Let's go. Marshall looked over his shoulder at Joel, a wide smile on his face. Excellent. So what do I have to, Joel started to ask before Marshall gruffly ushered him into a side alleyway between two old buildings. Joel panicked for a brief moment, thinking that he was about to get mugged. Hey, what are you doing? Shh, don't worry, we just can't be seen, Marshall said as he reached into his trench coat. Joel, half expecting Marshall to produce a knife or a gun, was quite perplexed by what he saw instead. A small-scale, odd-looking musical instrument that resembled a mandolin, with strings that glowed like the filaments of an incandescent light bulb and a teardrop-shaped body made of material that it looked like it came from the inside of an oyster shell. Wow, what is that? He asked. I'll explain everything later, Marshall replied. For now, just stay right there and try to relax. I'm getting pulled into a dark alley by my dead musical idol who says he'll turn me into a rock star while whipping out some crazy alien guitar, and he tells me to relax? Marshall closed his eyes and seemed to enter into a state of intense concentration. He strummed the strange instrument, but Joel couldn't hear any sound coming from it. Joel was about to ask another question when a feeling of dizziness suddenly overcame him, not unlike when he first got seasick as a child. His vision became blurry, and the dizziness quickly gave way to a more intense sensation that felt like he was being turned inside out. He wanted to scream, or perhaps throw up, but he found that he had lost all control of his own body. The CD that he had been carrying fell to the ground and rolled away, but that was the least of his concerns now. Tiny colored streams of light danced before his eyes, before everything suddenly went dark. And scene.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very different from anything I've ever seen before.
And by the way, everything I know about British accents, I learned from Harry Potter, and so I tried my best.
The accent wasn't what I was talking about. That was a unique take on the accent too. But I meant the autism portion of it. I've never seen anything like that before in juvenile fiction, for sure.
Yeah,
so it's good that somebody was willing to explore that.
Mhm.
We appreciate that was something you had the guts to do. So,
No, thank you.
all right, thank you.
Okay.
See, do we have any? Oh, but we got a comment, nice job on the accent. Somebody was good with it. There you go. All right. So let's see. Next we have Karen Eisenbrey. She lives in Seattle, Washington, where she leads a quiet, orderly life and invents stories to make up for it. Karen writes fantasy and science fiction novels, as well as short fiction for a variety of genres, and the occasional poem or song, if insists. She's the author of 4 novels, The Gospel According to Saint Rage, Barbara and the Rage Brigade, Daughter of Magic, and Wizard Girl, all from Not a Pipe Publishing. Death's Midwife will release in 2021. Karen shares her life with her husband, 2 young adult sons, and 2 mature adult cats. Hi, Karen, how are you? It's like we've got to unmute you. Hang on. There we are.
Yeah,
Hi, good morning.
I'm doing well. You had an outdated bio.
Uh-oh.
So I have 5 books, and I'll be reading from that 5th one, Death's Midwife. And I unfortunately only have 1 cat now, but other than that, the rest of it's all true.
I'm glad I got most of it right. So great. Tell me again, I missed the title. What you'll be reading from?
It's called Death's Midwife.
Death's Midwife. Excellent.
It's the 3rd book in a trilogy. And while I would love for everyone to read all 3 books in order to get the full experience, I tried to write them so they can be enjoyed on their own. It's fantasy with plenty of magic, but with human-sized stories. So this is not the epic stuff. This is very people-oriented. So in book 1, Daughter of Magic, 14-year-old Luskell, the daughter of powerful magic users, doesn't have any power of her own until it unexpectedly shows up when she's away from anyone who can teach her how to use it. So she starts teaching herself, learns to do a couple of things, and then she's called upon to rescue her very powerful parents from a threat they can't see. In book 2, Wizard Girl, 17-year-old Luskell goes against cultural expectations to become a wizard. She thinks she's almost won already, but she has a lot to learn. So then we come to book 3, Death's Midwife, which came out just in March of this year. And in this book, Luskell begins her career as a wizard with a unique power she's not sure is useful and might even be dangerous. She can cross to the afterlife and return, but she keeps being called upon to use it, even though she's not sure it's safe and not sure what it's good for, but she almost can't help herself. But I'm going to start with an excerpt from the very first chapter, the opening of the book, when Luskell is at near the end of kind of a self-imposed exile. She has been staying in a remote mountain valley for 6 months, and this is about 4 months into that experience. Luskell plunged into the mountain lake. The frigid water shocked the breath from her lungs. She surfaced, gasping. Her bones ached with cold. Soon she couldn't feel anything. She forced her limbs to move and swam with clumsy strokes toward the bleached trunk of a half-submerged fallen tree. That was the problem with accepting a dare from a dead man. It wouldn't occur to him it might kill her. Luskell dragged her numb body onto the log and lay shivering, exhausted, and exhilarated. She had waded before, but this was her first real swim, and maybe her last. Although late in the season, it was the first hot day at this elevation. Snow might fall any day, and in a few weeks, her time in Knott's Valley would end. She didn't have to return to shore the same way she'd come, though. Once she'd rested, she could become a bird and fly back, skipping the water altogether. Or be an otter which would enjoy the swim more. Luskel smiled as she imagined playing in the water, then frolicking up the bank. She stretched out on the log and closed her eyes. A light breeze carried the honey scent of lupins from the surrounding meadow. Sensation returned as Luskel's bare skin dried in the heat of the sun. It was almost worth braving the icy water for that delicious warmth alone, and one of the few benefits of complete solitude. This valley was, at least temporarily, her sole domain. No one except the mosquitoes cared whether she wore clothes or not. Other than a brief visit from a supply party around Long Day, Luskel hadn't seen or spoken to another living person since spring balance, not even through mind talking. She needed the time apart to master her skills and herself. Fatigued by the swim and lulled by the warmth and quiet, Luskel slipped into a daydream, mostly sensation at first, relief from all pain, buoyed by euphoria, warm as the sun on her skin. Then in the face associated with the feeling, light hair, hazel eyes, gentle smile. No, it wouldn't do to indulge such thoughts yet. Better to devote attention to family. With them, she knew where she stood. Relaxation became sleep and daydream a real dream. Luskel found herself approaching a sunless but equally warm and bright place, the grassy meadow of the other side. No flowers bloomed, but the living world's lupin scent accompanied her. Her grandfather Knot waited for her, shaking his head, waving her off. She was eager to see him, to brag about her swim, but his dark face looked stern, almost angry. What had she done now? But he was right, she should turn back. This was not her place. Staying too long was a danger. She should wait for him to come to her dreams. But it was such a comfort to be near him. Luskel? The dream scattered as she jerked awake at the call. She hadn't heard it with her ears, which would have been odd enough in this remote place. This voice was in her mind, and it spoke her name with an Aklaka accent, the voice of one of the few living men she would rather see than not. Lockie, where are you? Just coming over the ridge. He was here? With a squawk, she flopped back into the water and regretted it all over again. And now I'm going to skip ahead to chapter 15. In this chapter, Luskel spends an afternoon caring for her toddler brother, Kret, while he takes a nap and plays with his friends. Luskel removed her brother's shoes. Who are your friends, Kret? Dalem's my best friend, and there's Jumi and Friza and Vel. She's big. Luskel guessed Vel must be the 5-year-old. Such a big group. Anyone else I should know about? Oh, Grammy Bo come when I sleepin'. That's nice. We probably won't see her today. Luskel didn't know all the neighbors, but imagined a kindly old woman who might sometimes sit with Kret while he napped, or when her parents had to go out in the evening. Today, Luskel's here while you sleep. Is that all right? No nap. Kret rubbed his eyes. Luskel picked him up. He felt different than he used to. No diaper? Big boy now. She set him down so he could show her how he used the pot. She pulled out the trundle bed. Had it always taken up so much room? You don't have to nap, just close your eyes, and I'll play my fiddle for you. He flopped onto the bed and closed his eyes, giggling. Not sleeping. Luskel tuned her fiddle and played a quick dance tune. Kret banged his feet against the bed. She played the same tune at half tempo, followed by a new one she'd made up for Aku. She gradually transitioned to Aku's lullaby and sang along. Kret visibly relaxed, stuck his thumb into his mouth, and settled down to rest. When she was sure the nap was really happening, Luskel put the fiddle away. She heated water and washed the lunch dishes, then swept the room. It wasn't how she'd pictured her life as a wizard, doing housework and childcare. But she was a member of this household, and that's how it had always been. Everyone pitched in. She couldn't expect much sympathy if she complained. When the chores were done, she stretched out on her parents' bed and closed her eyes. She'd had nothing but uneasy or interrupted sleep for days. In spite of Kret's resistance, a nap seemed like a great idea. She dozed off in no time. A face loomed over her, waxy skin taut over sharp bones. The eyes blazed with rage. As the mouth opened to speak, Kret yelped in his sleep. Luskel jerked awake, heart thumping. Kret murmured, "Go away," and rolled over, sucking his thumb and content once more. Luskel thought about reading his dream, but there was no real need. It couldn't have been worse than hers, already fading, an angry face about to speak. Kret woke and stretched. "You napped me," he accused. "You must have needed it. Come on, let's get your shoes on." Luskel lifted him from the bed onto a chair. "No," his favorite word these days. "Oh, but it's time to meet your friends. I want to watch you play." "No, Moo come." Kret's lip trembled and his eyes filled with tears. What's moo? Luskel supposed it must mean cow. Where had Kret seen a cow? Maybe in Deep River, but they'd left there months ago. There was a cattle market several blocks away. The streets nearby were too narrow to drive the herds, though, so they wouldn't have come close. "Moo come," Kret repeated. "Then we'll have to protect each other." Luskel stuffed Kret's feet into shoes, got his coat on, and carried him outside to the back stairs. She had no hand free for her staff. She left it safe in the room. Down in the yard, 4 children were already hard at play, digging, building, making mud. "See, you're missing out. Which one is Dalim?" Kret shook his head and buried his face in her shoulder. Kiat from downstairs hung laundry on lines while she watched the children. As Luskel and Kret reached the top of the steps, a comparatively big girl suddenly jumped up and charged at the others. Shrieking and giggling, they ran, and she chased. Kret reached his hands toward them. "See, you don't want to miss out. Moo come." Luskel looked where he pointed. The gate stood open. A bellow resounded from the lane beyond. A brown-furred beast galloped into the yard, tossing horns. Kiat dropped her laundry basket. "Up, up." She scooped up the smallest children and ran for the stairs. The others followed. None of them, including Luskel, had ever seen a large animal loose in the yard. "Kret, stay here." Luskel set him on his feet and wrapped his fingers around the railing. Kiat was halfway up the stairs with the 2 toddlers. One of the older children followed her, but the girl who had been chasing them tripped and sprawled on the ground. Luskel climbed up and crouched on the railing, drew a breath, and silently transformed to a swallow. She swooped toward the rampaging animal. She lighted on its back and took her own form again. A wild grab, another, and she held a horn in each hand. It was a young bull, not full grown. It didn't think or feel as a human would, but she sensed its fear and anger. It had escaped some threat, but it didn't want to be where it was. It twisted and bucked. Luskel clung on as it tried to throw her off. She wrenched the bull's head to the side, turning it away from the child on the ground. The dry mouth, she sang Aku's lullaby and poured calming magic through the beast's horns. It slowed its mad gallop and stopped twisting as the drovers came through the gate. Luskel slid from its back, but kept her grip on the horns. "There's something you don't see every day." One of the men winked at Luskel. "A one-eyed girl riding a bull in a dress. People would pay to watch that act in a traveling show." The other man slipped a lead rope over the bull's head. "Aw, look, gentle as a new calf." "I'm not going to put a dress on him, though." Luskel let go and backed away. Glad her long skirt hid her shaking knees. "What? No, I meant you were." She ignored the drover and helped the frightened girl to her feet. "Are you Vel? It's all right now. You're safe." They climbed the stairs to join the others. Kret clung to the railing where Luskel had left him, silent tears rolling down his cheeks. Pascal picked him up and held him tight. It's all right, Pret, I'm here. Moo come. Yes, you were right, Moo come. She patted him and wondered, but how did you know?
Wonderful. There was an author in joke in there, writing in the dress, and my brain went, oh, that's wrong. So I enjoyed that. Thank you. Thank you very much for reading that.
You're welcome.
As you get applause all around. Hi, Kristin. All right, so Kristin Burchell writes novels for middle grade and YA readers, including The Witches of Proposal Rock and the upcoming Court of Venom. Her novels have won recognition from Willamette Writers, Northwest Institute of Literary Arts. She lives in the Pacific Northwest, the perfect home for dreaming up ghost stories. When not writing or teaching, she can be found reading, stargazing, and hiking with her husky in the Columbia River Gorge. I should know. I'm a Northwesterner too. It's a gorge. Please, let's turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you for having me. This is, I think, maybe my third opportunity to get to read at Words and Pictures. So thanks for having me again. And as you mentioned, yeah, I'm going to be reading today from Court of Venom, which is upcoming from Hooligan Press. It'll be released this spring. And that one had kind of a long journey to get to this point. It was one of those novels that I just loved working on. I would tinker with it and then put it away. And my writing partners would be like, hey, maybe you should work on something else for a while. And after many years, I finally submitted it to the Multnomah County Writers Project, and it got picked up. And then from there, Hooligan found it. So I felt very fortunate there. It is a YA fantasy novel set in a desert kingdom, and it is about a reluctant teenage assassin, also about the price of beauty and poison and revenge and redemption. So I'll go ahead and start reading, and feel free to stop me when I need to be stopped. So here's the prologue. The court sat transfixed as Mina's voice filled the dining hall. Tears welled in the eyes of even the most jaded as she sang of regret and lost love. My eyes burned too, but I hadn't been able to cry since the day the king followed me into the garden. The end of the song would come soon, and then I would look for my chance to poison her. I wondered what my mother would say. She never meant for our magic to hurt anyone or to kill anyone, and yet it had. I planned to mix something that would only hurt Mina's vocal cords. She'd have a sore throat and her voice would be raw and gravelly for a few days. I hoped she would take it as the warning it was meant to be. But the anger I felt must have made its way into the drink. The liquid was perhaps a bit more amber than it should have been, the smell more bitter. The song died away and she curtsied to thunderous applause. There were calls for an encore and I held my breath, but she gave a graceful wave and swept from the stage. The spell of her voice still hung in the air as I approached her. I'm sorry for how I've acted, I told her, my voice as repentant as I could make it. I know your throat gets sore after a performance, especially one as breathtaking as that one. I've mixed you a tincture to help. Please take it. I offered her the glass. Her eyes narrowed. Did you spit in this, little orphan? I forced myself to smile, though it must have been more of a grimace. Of course not, I lowered my eyes. I really am sorry for how I've acted. She studied me for a long moment and I held my breath. I accept your apology, she said at last and began to drink. She truly was arrogant if she couldn't sense the resentment, fear, and anger in the drink. If only she knew the truth about the king's death, she wouldn't be so amused. For a moment, I thought about knocking the glass from her hand and warning her, but I waited till she drained the liquid before I turned and rushed from the hall, the poison dripping from my fingertips. Later that night, there was a knock at my door, so soft it might have been a scratch. I was not surprised to see Mina on the other side. She pulled down the scarf, revealing the lower half of her face where the poison had burned her flesh. Her chin and the skin around her mouth was left blistered and wrinkled. You should have killed me, she said through her ruined lips in a voice that was barely a whisper. You're lucky, I told her. She wanted me to kill you. She slipped away without answering. I closed the door and sank onto my bed, eyeing the vials of poison on the table. Surely Selena would consider my debt paid now, but I should have known better. Chapter 1. The desert wind slinks into Iran from the west, winding its way through the pathways, turning corners and catching people unawares. Nights like this end in fights and tears. My mother jumped from the wall into the lost on a night like this, her body swallowed by the sand and her soul held ransom for silver. Tonight, many will remember things they'd rather forget, deeds that are best left in the past. Some will dread terrible events lurking in their futures if they aren't vigilant enough or lucky enough to stop them. Dark plans will take root in the minds of others, things they would never consider on any other night. The chime of timbres in the dining hall is louder than usual. Drums beat like a heart and laughter echoes off the walls. The wistful melody of the lute holds a warning, but is lost in the sounds of merriment. We sit on soft cushions around a low table, our goblets filled with sweet wine and our plates overflowing with spicy fish. Queen Selena presides at our center, her eyes glittering and her ebony hair shining. Our honored guest, the Duke of Doros, sits next to her right. He drinks deeply from his wine, his eyes fixed on her. I sit on her left, per her request, either so she can more easily ridicule me or so she can whisper a command she doesn't want others to hear. What do you think of the fish, Dia? Selena asks. It was so kind of the Duke to bring it for us, don't you think? That's not my name. The words boil in my mind, but I don't speak them. What would be the point? Instead, I make a show of raising my glass to her. A smile twists her mouth as she mirrors my gesture and takes a small sip of wine. She taps the table with her long nails, painted the color of rubies. 1, 2, 3. The order will come soon. I take a drink from the glass to wash down a piece of fish that is stuck in my throat. I am mindful not to drink too deeply. The wine could affect me in unexpected ways. Selena watches as I set down the glass, her smile widening. Delicious, I manage. Vile, you mean, Petra breathes from beside me, so quietly that only I can hear. She's one of Selena's ladies and nearly my friend, if such a thing were permitted here. The Duke's round belly bumps the table and everybody's drink slashes from their goblets. Petra curses beneath her breath. Oblivious, the Duke tilts his head back and drains his glass, then belches and slams the goblet onto the table. Everyone's hands dart to their drinks before they spill again. In the shadows behind the Duke stands a witch. She wears trousers and a loose white shirt, but it is the coins woven into her red hair that give her away. Her skin is smooth and unmarred, and her gray eyes gleam intently. She could be anywhere from 20 to 50 years old. To Selena's court, the sharpness of her cheekbones speaks to hunger, the color of her skin to exposure to the sun, and the searing color of her eyes to the demons in the lost, to the threats that lie just beyond the walls of Iran. No one wants to be reminded of those. Following my gaze, the Duke grimaces. Terrifying, isn't she, he says. But I had to hire her to guide us across the lost. She charged 100 silvers. Selena murmurs a sympathetic response, and even Petra can't suppress a shudder. The witch's face doesn't change. What wonderful hospitality, my lady Selena, the Duke continues. You and your sister are delightful hostesses. My stomach churns as his eyes sweep over me. Oh, we aren't related, Selena says. We hardly look alike, do we? She widens her eyes in dramatic horror. Her court exchanges smirks, but no one dares laugh aloud in front of me, not if they want their potions and tonics. She's right, though. We don't look alike. Her hair is dark and smooth, thanks to the tonics I used to wash it, while mine is wavy and coarse. Her face is oval and her cheekbones defined, while my face is shaped like a heart, as my mother used to say. Her eyes are dark and watchful like a cat's. Mine are watchful too, but they're round. I didn't mean to offend you, my lady, the Duke says quickly. She's sitting at your side is all. My father adopted her, Selena explains. This story is a favorite of hers, and she does not want to be interrupted. Her mother was a dancer. She lowers her voice as if the word means something contemptible. My father took Dia in out of the kindness of his heart after her mother died. Dia, the Duke muses. My skin crawls as he regards me over the lip of his glass. What an interesting name. Is it a type of bird? It's a beetle, actually. It digs in dung until it finds a living creature. Selena delivers the inevitable barb. Then it burrows into their flesh and slowly poisons them. The Duke gives an uncertain laugh. Under the table, Petra's knee bumps mine. Perhaps by accident, or maybe she can see that my hand is tightened around my glass, and my teeth are clenched, and she wants to remind me of the pleasure Selena would gain should I betray my feelings. Letting out a breath, I force myself to smile as I take another drink. Once again, Selena raises her glass to me with a mocking smile. The truth is, the king treated me as his own because he loved my mother more than he loved his wife, Selena's mother. Now, all three are dead because of it. My name is Badria, I say, but the Duke is already speaking. You're lucky to have one another. It must be difficult to rule a kingdom when you're so young. Selena's eyes narrow as he moves closer to her. She taps her nails against the table again. 1, 2, 3. Yes, the order will come soon. I glance at the witch, but her face is like stone. I'm glad you're enjoying yourself, Selena says. I hear you are a daring gambler. Perhaps a game of chance? I am daring indeed. He snakes his arm around her waist. Petra sucks in her breath, and Selena's bodyguard takes a step forward, but she gives him a slight shake of her head. The Duke leans forward, his lips at her ear. I would enjoy some time alone. Perhaps after some dancing and more wine, she rises, the Duke's arm sliding from her waist, and we all stand with her. Petra drains her glass as Selena signals to the musicians. They end their plaintive song and strike up a livelier one, the drums beating an infectious rhythm and the timbre jingling. A young man in the Duke's entourage draws me into a dance. For a moment, I can't resist pretending that I am an ordinary 18-year-old enjoying a flirtation. He smiles at me and I smile in return. The music swirls around us. Over his shoulder, I catch Selena's gaze and pull away from him. His hand brushes my arm as I sidestep his reach. As much as I would like to stay, it is for his own safety that I depart. I can feel the eyes of the past kings and queens staring down at me as I wind through the crowd of couples dancing. Each is honored with an effigy carved into the wall of the dining hall so that they can forever watch their courts dining and carousing without them. There's the first king, Medicus, who made the bargain that founded Iran, and beside him stands his queen, her expression grieving at the price she was asked to pay. Other kings and queens, wearing expressions varying from arrogance to joy to solemnity, stand in a row until one reaches the last king, Selena's father. He smiles kindly over his subjects, and even in death, the sight makes me shiver. His eyes seem to follow me as I struggle through the crowd. On one side of the third king stands a sculpture of his wife, the queen, Selena's mother. Her expression is serene as it never was in life. On his other side is an odd space where a statue of my mother once stood. As soon as the king died, Selena ordered it to be removed. The space is now covered with a great stone urn. I've nearly reached the door when I catch a glimpse of wide eyes peering out from behind a silk hanging like a crocodile's. The cloth drops back into place. With a sigh, I walk over and pull it aside, and Selena's younger sister, Najma, shrinks away.
I'm going to stop it there.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
We were enjoying it, but I want to
Thank
make sure that we leave time in case anybody's got some questions they want to put to the three of you. I'm not seeing anything in the chat, but I don't want to cut anybody off. No, nothing so far. Is there anything that anybody wants to tell me before we go about the writing process, or something that you went through that was difficult in the middle of all of this particular challenge? No, nobody wants to share that. All right, we appreciated you all being here very much. Thank you for sharing your work with us. And we're going to invite everybody to come back and join us again at 11:15. We're going to be listening to work by Curtis Chen, Debbie Dodds, and Leanne McLennan. Again, thank you everybody for joining us today in Words and Pictures 2021.
I see that there is one question in the chat.
Oh, hold on. Oh, I'd love to hear about upcoming projects. That's from Leanne McLennan, actually. Brian, you're up, go.
Okay, well, like I said, I have I have 5 books out in the Joel Suzuki series. I'm working on the 6th one. First draft is done. I hope to have it to my editor maybe by beginning of next year. I'm sort of on a every other year schedule. So every other year, a new book in the series comes out. The main story arc ends actually after the 7th book, but then there's gonna be 4 more after that for various reasons. In addition to the Joel Suzuki series, I'm the lead writer for a manga-style comic book series called Glorified. I have that right here, where we have 4 issues out. This is the first one, second one, third one. So yeah, so that's a thing that's going on as well. I also have a bunch of unproduced film and television scripts that I've been trying to shop around with not much success. Those are other things I'm working on as well. So and I do play in a band where we have 3 albums out, and we are working on the 4th one. And so yeah, I'm keeping busy.
I just have a question that I had for you. You said there's 11 total in this particular series.
Yes.
When you started, how far out did you have it planned? Were you thinking of all 11, or did it grow as you went?
Actually, the original vision for it was to have 7 books, because I guess each color in the visible light spectrum is, like, so it's basically the rainbow. Like, the first book was the red book, and then I have, the orange book and the yellow book. Because there's a lot of tie-ins there where it's a visible light spectrum, kind of a play on words thing, and then each color in the light spectrum corresponds to a musical note, is what actually Isaac Newton would say. And Isaac Newton was rumored to have been autistic himself. So there are a lot of tie-ins that made me decide to do 7 books. So the main story arc will end after 7. But then when I changed the title of the series in between the second and third books to be the Joel Suzuki series. Everything is subtitled like Volume 1, Seeker of the Song Shell, Volume 2. So once I changed to volume, I realized that, well, like, I don't know if anybody seen Spinal Tap, movie from the 80s about a fictional band. Anyway, so, like, my rock and roll friends would not forgive me if I didn't say, like, because they had this joke in the movie where like the guitar player's amp goes up to 11, volume 11. And so I was like, okay, well, I have to make, now that I'm calling these books volumes, I have to make it go up to volume 11. Otherwise,
works.
my friends would not forgive me. So I did find out that there are actually like 4 colors outside of the visible light spectrum. Like there's infrared, ultraviolet, black, which is the absence of all light, and then white, which is the combination of all the different light colors. So I thought, hey, that's perfect. So I'll just make those 4 books correspond to those things, and they'll be like post adventures after the main story arc is done.
Excellent. All right, Karen, you're up. Upcoming projects.
Yeah, I have so many upcoming projects. I'm currently working on a hard sci-fi workplace rom-com survival story in space based on historical events. So, which is
historical events with those people?
It is based on Ernest Shackleton's attempt to cross Antarctica, and he never even got off the boat. And so that's what inspired the survival story part of it. So I've been working on that for literally a decade, but it was inactive for a long time, and I took it up again recently. I'm also working on a spin-off from the Daughter of Magic trilogy, in which little Kret gets to be the YA protagonist. So it's set 12 years later. That's called The Agate Staff. I am planning a prequel series to that trilogy. 4 books are written, and I need to write 1 more and update the old books because I've learned a lot since I wrote them. And then one that I'm very excited about is I am working on a collaboration with Leanne McLennan, in which our teen superheroes meet and team up and do a mission together. And we don't have a title for it yet, but it's basically written and is out to beta readers now. So we're really excited to get that novella out to people.
So I have a question for you as well. You said that it sat on the back burner for 10 years, the story that you're working on now. What brought you to the point where you felt like you were ready to tell that story? It was completely written and done, and I had feedback from people, and then more urgent projects kind of came to the fore. I wrote a book in 2016 that was my first published novel, and then I decided to revise Daughter of Magic and submit it to Not a Pipe Publishing for the Year of Publishing Women in 2018, which meant I also needed to revise Wizard Girl and write Death's Midwife. So there was all this other stuff that was in the queue, but I had the feedback, I had my notes, I had a manuscript with scribbles all over it. And I finally had some time to take it up again last summer and got it to a good place where I could get feedback on that revision. And now I finally have time to respond to that feedback. And I think it's almost done. But it's the sort of thing, you write science fiction these days and your whiz bang tech goes out of date too fast.
So I had to kind of update how I was talking about high-tech things so that they were a little vaguer and weren't going to just go out of date instantly. But I think this time for sure.
We'll be looking forward to that. All right, Kristin, you're up.
Upcoming projects.
Mhm.
Well, I've been working on a middle grade ghost story that I've been shopping around that's set locally. And then also another project I've been working on for a long, long time is a historical fiction set in France following the French Revolution.
Mhm.
So, yep.
Excellent. So what inspired the story, the ghost story, and is it a spoiler if I ask you?
No, no, I just love this area. I live near Camas, near Lacamas Lake, and it's just such a beautiful setting. And it also just seems like a very haunted place. And so I thought that would make a great story.
All right, and I'm checking for further questions. Going. All right, sold. So we're gonna go back. I'm gonna do the end spiel again. Thank you all very much for coming and for the extra Q&A there that we got at the end. And once again, we're going to be doing another series of author readings beginning at 11:15. And we hope to see everybody then. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you.